7 ways to improve productivity. And the big one, right, is to quiet the mind. These are 2 important things that so many people in the entrepreneur space, as well as in the sales industry, struggle with intensely. And there's a couple reasons why, which is how we came up with the 7 improvements for you to work on. Now, the interesting thing that when we're an entrepreneur or we're in the sales industry, there's 2 major pain points that we find so often that we come against. And maybe you've had this experience as well. One being is that we're always worried about finances because there's no stability when we're in sales or even being an entrepreneur. We have many, many sleepless nights that end up keeping us awake because there's a tendency not to be able to turn off our thinking when it gets time to go to bed. In fact, many have, and if you've experienced this, you may have experienced that when you put your head down on the pillow, your mind will start to think faster. And then, of course, you can't sleep, and then we have to be worried about when we're not sleeping and we're not getting enough rest that we need. Well, it affects our performance, which is productivity, and it also affects our body as far as health is concerned. And so we have to be worried about what I call dis-ease, right? There's dis-ease in the body, and then all of a sudden we're not operating at the optimal space that we should be operating out of. So these are really key components that can help you. In fact, they're really simple. Some even say they're so simple that they're hard, right? Because as you may experience, sometimes we have a tendency as humans to overthink things. So we want to take you back to the simplicities and the basics of life. Start from there, and it's really cool. So let me start with the first one. The first one, I don't know if you remember, but Albert Einstein talked about how the hardest thing for humans to do is think. And that is to think in the direction of what it is that you want. And so the number one thing that you must start doing is thinking about what is it that you really want, right? Because most people get busy and they have a job and they just get busy working, but they don't know what they want. And you can do this in any area of your life, whether it's professional or personal, whether it's health related or whether it's in the spectrum of financial freedom, right? And looking at your wealth as far as, where you want to go with it. So the first thing I want you to take time to do is think about, if not this, then what? Okay? The second thing that I want you to do, we talk about, is a foundation. Now, most people know this as a business plan. Business plans are great, but it's not something that many people use. Unfortunately, they create this business plan and then they put it in their drawer and they never see it again. What we want is a foundation to our business. And what I notice, now I don't know if this is the same for you, there's no thought process as to what destination are we really going to get to in this business that we're in, especially being, as an entrepreneur or a sales agent. So think about this. If you were putting together the foundation of your house so that it would be structured in a way that it would be solid. And again, when we take the time it takes to get this part right, it takes less time. And this is a huge missing link to many businesses. So if we were to sit down and think about the foundation of our business and where we want it to go, then what would be the end destination that you would be looking for? Now, we call this conditioning your mind. Now, if you haven't done this before, in the beginning, it's going to be a little hard, believe it or not, to think where you want to go. So let me help you. I said to you before, if not this, then what? If you are moving in a direction and wanted to acquire something or reach a certain level, most people look at income. If you were looking at your income, what income would you want to reach? Now, we say that it takes the same amount of energy to think small as it does to think big. And we know that we're thinking big when we come up with a number that lets the butterflies fly in our stomach. Right now we know that we're stretching and growing. Now, a lot of people like to stay in security or safety, but I encourage you that it's fun to take that little bit of a risk. And as soon as you begin to take a little bit of that risk, all of a sudden, good things begin to happen, right? So think big of a number that you'd like to be able to acquire. Maybe your goal is to help a certain amount of people. When we think about the insurance industry, so many agents, I don't know if this is you, but so many agents forget that the one thing that we're doing is helping people protect them from financial losses. And when we come from that mindset, maybe there's a certain amount of people that you'd like to connect with, or you'd like to sell a particular policy. and get a certain amount of policies sold. It really depends on, what you want. Maybe in your business, you're looking to create a family legacy, right? So we want to think from the very end of where the destination is that you want to get to, so that when you get to that destination, you know that you've reached it. Now, this may take 10 or 20 years for you to get there, maybe. But the idea is that we need to know the destination first so that we can begin to reverse engineer the plan. And then in 18 months and 3 years, we break it down so that it makes it easier to attain in chunks. So that's number 2, is know your end destination of where you're going. Number 3, this one's really important because people can get really busy being busy working. We get up, we check our emails, we get in the office, we do paperwork. You have these regular routines of what it is that you're doing, but you realize that you're not moving the dial on your business, and that's because you're not doing productivity that's going to move the dial. And so what will is number 3 is knowing what steps or what items you need to do that will be revenue-driven activities. Let me say that again. What you want to be writing down is a list of revenue-driven activities. We can't get to where we want to go unless we can think it. Okay, so if we're not thinking from this space, then you're not going to be able to get there. What revenue-driven activities can you do? Make a list of as many of them as you can think of. So maybe, I know sometimes cold calling is a bit hard, or making new connections, but when you're an entrepreneur, or especially in the sales industry, the number one thing that you want to be able to do is connect with people. And so that would be one activity. Now remember, if you're coming from a space of helping people protect them from financial loss, it makes the conversation really easy. But if you come from a space of you're looking to make a sale, you can actually, if you think about it, there's a shift in your energy just saying those two things, that making a sale is not about the client, which makes it really harder to make the sale at all. And the reason why so many people feel uncomfortable. So I encourage you that in connecting with new clients and reaching out to new people and making phone calls to new businesses, get in the mindset of how can I help protect them from any type of financial loss, and be in that space. It makes it really inviting for people to have a conversation with you. So that's number 3. Make a list of revenue-driven activities that you can implement that's going to help move the dial and increase productivity. The 4th thing that we talk about is, your schedule, right? Earlier on we said, everyone gets in the office, maybe like you'll get in the office and you get busy doing things, and then the day gets away and you've done nothing productive. Well, we want to take those revenue-driven activities and we want to implement them into our calendar. These things that you come up with on this list is what's going to drive your revenue. Well, then where can you implement them in your calendar so they're the very first things that you do? Now, I'll give you a little bit of an example of what I do, and maybe this can help you as well. That on Sunday evening, I make my schedule up so that I know exactly where it is that I'm going for the week. And usually first thing in the morning is when I do those revenue-driven activities. I do nothing else but those activities. In fact, you're gonna feel like this freedom all of a sudden come to mind. And like I said, quieting the mind. When you do these particular revenue-driven activities, well, all of a sudden there's peace of mind because it's moving the dial on your business. That if I did nothing else all day long, I would be content because I did what I had to. So implementing these particular activities into your schedule is key, okay? So where can you put these revenue-driven activities, and how often in your schedule can you do that, right? Because the more that you do that, the more it moves the dial, the more freedom you're going to feel. Now, number 5, this one's just as important as all the other ones. I'm going to tell you that you're going to have life distractions. And when you start to do this work, life is going to try to get in the way. So I'm fair warning you. As soon as you start to do something really good, people want to distract you. And so number 5 is about keeping your eye on the target. When you know your foundation And like we said, we chunk it down to maybe a 12-month goal. You reverse engineer it to a 12-month plan. You back it into just, your daily activities as far as each month. You're going to see how the dial begins to move. But you have to stay focused on the target. You have to stay focused on your destination and make sure that the activities that you're doing are in the direction of hitting that destination. That'll also help you make decisions. So if people want you to do things, or if you're a part of different organizations or being asked to join organizations, or you are in organizations, you may want to look at it and say, is this particular organization helping me get to that destination? And so it'll also help make decisions that will limit the distractions in your life so that you can be more productive. So number 5, make sure you keep your eye on the target and ask yourself the question of, is this in the direction of what it is that I want to accomplish? Number 6, one of the things that was a huge learning curve for me, and maybe it is for you, is delegating. Getting someone to help you take away some of those things that you don't need to be doing, that somebody else can help do for you, and that they absolutely love. Not for nothing, but you may find out that people actually love doing paperwork. And so if paperwork isn't your thing, then find somebody that loves it. You can pay them, $10, $12, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever it may be. And they can get done in an hour or two what you may waste all day doing, because it's one of the things that that just drives you crazy. Those $10 and $20 activities are something that someone can be doing so that you can be out making maybe $100 an hour, $150 an hour. Wherever your unique ability is, if it's in that sales industry, then you need to be selling and let someone else take care of the paperwork. That's going to help, again, move your dial so that not only you become more productive, but your team and your business becomes more productive. And lastly, this one is one that we refer to as experiential learning. People may become really good at thinking. People may become really good at reading material. People may become really good at studying and being parts of webinars and seminars and things like that. That's all well and fine, because knowledge is power, they say, right? But really, if we do nothing with that knowledge, then it's not of power at all. The key thing is to actually get out and do the work. And so that's where we talk about experiential learning, means you have to go out and do the work necessary. So take the time to do the thinking, create the foundation, the revenue-driven activities, alter your calendar. Go out and start implementing those activities that you need to get done. And keep in mind that when people say no, it's not about you, right? Don't take it personal. Those are things where people may fear rejection and things like that. Don't take it personal. Sometimes people, this is where we get caught up in our mind too much. Oh, they don't like me, whatever. No. And maybe that is the case in some circumstances, but not all of them. I can tell you that that's not always the case. Sometimes people just don't need the service. They don't understand what it is that you do. And maybe they're not your best client, right? And so if we try to sell something to that client that's not ready, well, they become one of those clients that for some, they'd rather not have. Implementing is key. Just getting out and talking to people and putting your state of mind in that place of, how can I help you protect you from any type of financial loss? And go out and help people. It's a beautiful thing. It makes you feel good. In my case, I love helping people because it fills my soul. I hope this fills your soul too. I'm sure, without a doubt, these 7 tips are going to help you not only increase productivity, but quiet your mind as well. Remember, when we recondition our thinking to start thinking from the direction of what it is that we want, and we implement those activities, rest assured, your mind's going to become much quieter because it's eased any of that tension. This is the secret recipe that not many people have, but you have it now. So go out, help people, and come back and visit us often.